A former WWE star that went to AEW could be returning. We're going to talk about that contract situation, plus new signings and so much more. Don't forget, we're giving away this championship belt once we hit 100,000 subscribers. Welcome back to the Ango Show. Guys, I want to kick things off with Vince McMahon. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Vince McMahon. There was a lot of news last month about Vince McMahon selling his stocks, obviously cashing out, getting paid. Well, Sports Illustrated came out with a very interesting report. They were told by sources in WWE that Vince McMahon has no plans to leave the company. McMahon reportedly needed to have the money liquid, so he sold so much of his stock, and it's unclear why he needed the money. Also, sources indicated to Sports Illustrated that Vince McMahon has no plans to stop working for the company, and he still wields great power in the company. It was also added that Vince McMahon's relationship with Ari Emanuel, the CEO of Endeavor, remains a positive one, even after the decision was made for Triple H to be in charge of creative without interference. So at the very least, Triple H and Nick Khan are making most of the decisions. Now, I actually believe, and this is me just kind of speculating here, but I actually believe Ari Emanuel is kind of using Vince McMahon for relationship building in terms of UFC. Dana White was very vocal about Vince McMahon helping the UFC land a deal with the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund. And because the UFC is going to go to Saudi Arabia, Dana White had mentioned that he literally didn't have to do anything. Vince McMahon made one call and the deal was done, right? So with the UFC getting that type of deal, I think Ari Emanuel does see some value in Vince McMahon. In the same token, you have a little bit of a concern with Vince McMahon and the effect of the stocks, which Ari Emanuel and Endeavor have been pretty vocal about. How Vince McMahon being on the board for TKO actually serves as somewhat of an issue. So, look, WWE will not outright confirm if Vince McMahon is looking to leave WWE, and they're obviously not going to outright come out and say that he's done. It's not. They're not going to leak something like that. If Ari Emanuel and the company want Vince McMahon gone and Vince McMahon ends up leaving, it is going to be a bombshell of a report that comes out of some sort of press release or something like that. Same exact way that Vince McMahon forcefully retired, that's essentially how it's going to go down if Vince McMahon were to leave the company. Now, with that being said, I think right now WWE's product is very enjoyable. I think Triple H is doing a wonderful job as head of creative. I can tell you guys, I cannot want this. I do not need this. I do not want to see this. Triple H needs to remain head of creative. I do not want Vince McMahon in the public eye representing WWE in any of these situations. Nick Khan, Triple H, they're doing a fantastic job. I don't want to see that change whatsoever. And I'm pretty happy with what they're doing. As far as Vince McMahon, I don't want him in the WWE, but at this point, what can you do, right? Guys, I want to turn our attention to the WWE NIL program. 14 new signings. WWE has signed 14 different universities, athletes from different universities, I should say. Lot of great potential here. They have a couple from Michigan. They have a couple from Indiana State, Arizona, Howard University, Liberty University. I mean, the list goes on. You got some from Miami, Florida. You got some from Colorado. You got some football players. You got some track and field athletes. You got some wrestlers. Lucas Davison is a wrestler from Michigan. I think this guy actually has a lot of potential. Obviously, with the NIL program, this is WWE's way of recruiting for the future while there's athletes in college. And I always find the NIL program to be very interesting because it's literally WWE giving people money in school while, kind of reserving a spot for them at the Performance Center in the future. And it could kind of backfire on them, right? This is one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, but look at what happened with the Cavender twins. The Cavender twins were coming to WWE. WWE even put them on TV, and then one of the twins decided to go back to school. And it doesn't mean that WWE won't be able to get them back or anything like that. It just means, it gets delayed. And, with the college athletics and so many different opportunities, you got to think for some of these athletes, if they want to make it to the NBA, WNBA, if they want to make it to the Olympics, if they want to make it, to the NFL, do you really go to WWE or do you stay at college and finish it off and stuff like that? Look, education's important. I'm not here to give you guys a spiel on that, but obviously WWE sees a lot of value in the NIL program. I wonder who will represent WWE the best when it comes to the NIL program. Who is going to be an original? Who is going to be one of the people that go to the NIL program, make it onto NXT, then make it onto the main roster, and actually become a star in the WWE? I mean, unless I'm forgetting, we haven't seen that yet. And obviously the NIL program is new, so we shouldn't expect to see it that soon. But it will be interesting to see many, many, many years from now who gets called up from NIL and progresses all the way to the tippy top. I want to see what happens there. But 14 new athletes are joining WWE. Keep in mind, the NIL deals are very, very, very small as well. They're not that massive, but it is obviously helpful for college athletes while they go to college. Years ago in college, you couldn't accept money from brands and companies and stuff like that. Now you can, and it's interesting. Guys, Andrade El Idolo could potentially be leaving AEW. While speaking on the Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer had noted that Andrade's his AEW contract is slated to expire soon, unless time has been added due to time missed when he was out of action. Meltzer says he's going back to CMLL. I'm not exactly sure what week, but probably relatively soon. There was talks between Andrade and AAA, and he obviously started in CMLL, and he wants to go back. Meltzer says it is something that he wants to do. His AEW deal is coming up relatively soon, unless it's extended, but Meltzer thinks his deal is up pretty soon, so he wants to go to CMLL in case that he ends up going to the WWE, because obviously if he goes to the WWE, he cannot go to CMLL. He's not made a decision about what he's doing next. He has not signed a new deal with AEW, but if he does go to WWE, he knows he can't go back to Arena Mexico, which again, fairly makes sense. No exact timetable yet. Look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a few talent in AEW that left WWE, went to AEW, and I just feel like the booking, like these guys are world champions in my eyes. These are guys that, if they were in WWE today, I would put the World Heavyweight Championship belt around their waist. Andrade, Miro, Malachi Black, those three right there make me believe they should have a World Heavyweight Championship around their waist, and AEW has yet to do that. And look, I don't think this is not really an opinion at this point. The consistency in which they're used on AEW television goes to show you that AEW dropped the ball. I think AEW has a lot of other talent. You want to push the Will Ospreays in the world. If you're trying to do that, you can't really push Andrade. You can't really push Miro. Right now, Miro's in a weird situation with his wife, CJ Perry, formerly known as Lana. CJ Perry is trying to manage Andrade. Like, they kind of got something going on. If Andrade's out of AEW, I fully expect Miro, despite Miro saying he wouldn't touch CJ Perry's client, I fully expect him to be the one that writes him off television if Andrade is leaving the company. And look, there's been rumors for a long time that Andrade was not happy in AEW. There was, the story of him punching Sammy Guevara. Let's just say those things are not a work. Let's just say those things are legit. Then obviously it doesn't really make sense for him to be there. Plus, this guy should be a single star, not really doing anything in AEW of any importance. Hasn't done anything of importance since he arrived there. And I will throw one last thing out there, because forget about the creative, forget about the wrestling, forget about the drama. But the one thing that you have to be very mindful of is that his wife is in WWE. And WWE will be lessening their house shows, and they will be having a little bit more time with their families. It's a big initiative from Triple H. He wants them to have a little bit more of a life balance. And I think if you brought Andrade into WWE, let's say he's on SmackDown, he gets to be on the same show as his wife, he is going to get that balance as as expected. And the cool thing is, too, Zelina Vega's on SmackDown, so please, for the love of God, WWE, I need it. Andrade and Zelina. Plus, there could be some really cool stuff, obviously, with the LWO, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Dragon Lee. I mean, they're cooking up a beautiful storyline there. This is what I want to see. Let me know what you guys think down below.